Welcome to 90s Gate, where we take a deep dive into queer art and culture from the golden era of the 90s. On this episode, it's all things Madonna, as we continue our chat with the visionary director and choreographer, Mr. Vincent Paterson. Vincent takes us behind the scenes of the years he spent creating for Madonna. These collaborations include the incredible Blond Ambition tour, which was captured in her documentary Truth or Dare, along with many of her most iconic TV performances, her Marie Antoinette-inspired performance of Vogue on the VMAs, and her Academy Awards performance of Sooner or Later from the film Dick Tracy. We start this episode with their first project together, Madonna's controversial Pepsi commercial, the one that would eventually be pulled from TV screens after the Vatican threatened a boycott. You mentioned Madonna before, and obviously that's a massive part of your career and your legacy. Tell me about meeting Madonna for the first time. You would have had, I guess, some preconceived notions about the kind of person she was, or the intimidating, I imagine, intimidating nature that she would have. Tell me about meeting Madonna for the first time.
Well, with Madonna, I was a little bit of a fan, even though what was confused me about Madonna was she always talked about in the interviews that she was a dancer, and then you look at her music videos and she was just like flopping around. She wasn't really dancing at all. And I thought, why is she telling everybody she's a dancer if she doesn't dance? So a director, Joe Pitka, called me, and I had worked with him many times, and he had called me down. He said, listen, I'm doing a project with Madonna, and she doesn't want to dance. He goes, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with her. She doesn't want to dance, you know. Could you come down here and just come down, would you? And I said, okay. So I came down. I'm standing with Joe, and Madonna and her entourage go walking by us. And I'm kind of a little starstruck. And Joe goes, oh, Madonna, wait, I want to introduce you to Vincent Paterson. He came to work with us as a choreographer. He's Michael Jackson's choreographer. Madonna looked at me and said, I don't need a fucking choreographer, and walked off. You know, and that was the end. And I was like, oh my God, man, talk about face on the floor, you know. I think I got down on my hands and knees to grab it and put it back on. But anyway, I was going to split, and Joe said, please don't go. Just please stay. I said, okay. So the good thing that happened was pretty soon after that, they were trying to get a shot where she was on a platform and there was a camera that was coming up, and she was supposed to do a turn and face the camera just as it got to that height. Well, they were having a really hard time coordinating it. And I said to Joe, I can make this happen in 2 minutes. And she can be the fuck out of here. And he said, please do it. So I talked to the crane operator, and I gave him some numbers, and I went over to Madonna and I said, I'm not choreographing anything, I promise. I'm just fixing the numbers so that, you know, you can get out of here. And she said, well, then fucking do it. So I said, okay. So I counted them both, and she did her turn, and the crane operator got there, and they got the shot, and she left. Joe said, come back tomorrow, please. So I came back the next day. He had a bunch of extras on the set, dancers, and he said, just do something with them. Give them something as they're running down the street or something. Give them some movement. So I started to give them some little steps, and they're all standing in front of me, and we're just on the big sound stage, and I see the dancers stop paying attention to me and start to look kind of over my shoulder, and I turn around, and there's Madonna, and she's got on like a robe and like bunny slippers kind of, and her hair in curlers. And she goes, what are you doing? I said, it's not for you. Don't worry. I was so paranoid. It's not for you. This is something Joe wanted for the background. And she goes, no, I like it. Let me get changed. I want to come back and learn it. So she came back and learned it. And I did a couple little other moments in there for her. And and that was the first project with her, the Pepsi commercial that got pulled. Because it was...
This is what I was about to say.
Yeah,
on that controversy.
Well, what happened was she had used the music to Like a Prayer, and all these Christian groups, because in the video she had used a black saint, all these Christian groups put up all this stink, and Pepsi wound up pulling the commercial. You know? But it had already been seen by like 1 billion people, so that was cool. You know, they'd already seen it.
Amazing. And started your your professional connection with Madonna. Was the next step Express Yourself?
Yes, it was actually. She had her manager, Freddie DeMann at the time, had called and said, Madonna wants to work with you on video that David Fincher is directing, Express Yourself, and, would you do that? And I said, I'd love to. So we worked together and I put something together. But the funny part was when I choreographed a lot of little moments in that. This is something, again, that because choreographers are in this, my business, my end of it, are pushed under the rug, people don't really know what we do. But in that project, I did all the stuff with the guys doing push-up formations. I taught her how to sit elegantly on a couch and smoke a cigarette with a long cigarette holder. I showed her how to crawl across the floor like a cat and pour the milk down her face. All those things that choreographers do, but people don't realize that. They think you just do the 5, 6, 7, 8, here's your arms and legs. So I had choreographed this little section for her where she's kind of behind a dressing screen, and she had some movement to do. And we rehearsed it in a studio, and she looked great. She looked fabulous. She seemed happy with it. We got to the set, and she started doing her own stuff. She didn't do my work. She started doing her own movements. And David Fincher stopped after the cut, and I went up to her and I said, Madonna, what are you doing? Well, I was thinking that maybe I would do some of this instead, some improv. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm a very honest person, and what I created for you is a lot better than what you're doing right now. So, but you know what? It's your career, and if you don't want it, that's absolutely fine with me. You hired me, and you can do what you want. And she did my stuff instead. So that was kind of step number 2 with Madonna and Vincent.
Building up that rapport.
And also what happened was I did a big piece for her at the top of this staircase. And she's in a black suit. And at the very end of it, she points and she goes, I forgot what I'm supposed to do with my hand. I forgot what I'm supposed to do with the other hand. And I'm down there with all these guys, I said, why don't you just grab your balls? You got bigger balls than anybody on this entire set. And she goes, okay, bam. And she grabbed her balls. So that was like the second crotch grab, First I gave it to Michael, and then I gave it to Madonna.
Amazing. Another crazy iconic video is Vogue. I guess this is the next step with working with Madonna. How, first of all, just iconic when you think of music videos, so implanted in everyone's minds. How aware were you of the gay ballroom scene and of voguing prior to Madonna bringing it to the mainstream?
Not at all. In fact, what happened is Madonna had hired somebody else to choreograph the Blond Ambition tour. And she had worked with this choreographer who was there with the dancers as well for a month, and the 2 backup singers, Donna and Nikki, for a month, and hadn't finished one piece. And I got a call at home, like I did from Michael Jackson, with Madonna being frantic. Oh my God, it's falling apart. I have all these tour dates set. I don't know what I'm going to do. You know me. You can handle me. You know what to do with me. You know how to handle the dancers. Please, can you come and do this show? Please, I need you. I need you. So after some long negotiations where she was a pain in the ass, I said, oh God, she was bitching over some small monies because they had paid the other choreographer a lot of money. Sure. And then they had to fire that person, So she wanted to keep in the same budget and bring me in to do the entire show and co-direct it, because that was one of my criteria. I said, I'll choreograph it, but I definitely want to direct it. And she said, well, co-direct it with me. And I said, okay, I'll co-direct it with you. That's fine. Because some things were already in the works that she had already decided on. Some set pieces and stuff like that, But the first day that I went down to work with her and the dancers and the singers, they showed me what they had, which was half of a piece. And that was it. Half of one song, and that was all. But so I finished that song that afternoon. I choreographed Express Yourself for the stage. I did the whole thing. And then before we left, she said to me, listen, I know this isn't part of the tour yet, but I'm going to do this video tomorrow, Vogue. And, I want you to take a look at what we're doing. And I said, okay. So she showed me what had been created. And two of the dancers, Louis and Jose, who really were from that gay Vogue world in New York, had created all the Vogue movement. But it wasn't necessarily a dance. It was movement that was kind of not clean. It wasn't perfect. And so I spent a couple hours with them taking the movement that they had and cleaning it, putting it in a dance form so that it would have something that they could do and could be repeated. And but I don't take credit for choreographing Vogue, that Vogue. That was really not mine. That was Jose's and Louis's. They really created that work. And even though I came in and helped out, I would never take credit for that. That came from them, and it was very, very special. And I'm so proud of what they did, and I'm proud of what they all did. It was a phenomenal video, phenomenal.
Yeah. Do you think, were they the guys, do you think, who maybe would be responsible for introducing Madonna to that world, that voguing world? Because I guess the urban legend is that she went to an event in New York, and like a gay ball, life ball maybe or something, and she saw voguers and wanted to bring that to the mainstream, wanted to incorporate that. I guess the guys are the ones who maybe...
I don't think that's what really happened. I think what happened is after she... when I wasn't there for the audition for the dancers because I wasn't part of the tour there then, but I know that when she auditioned them, she had them, they did a dance combination and they also did freestyle. When Louis and Jose did freestyle, this is what I'm told anyway, by the dancers and who were on the tour, that when they did voguing, Madonna was like, "What is that?" And she had auditioned people in LA and New York. And then she pulled out Jose and Louis and really loved what they were doing. And I'm pretty sure they were the ones who took her and introduced her to the world of Vogue, the gay world of Vogue. I don't think she really had any idea before that it even existed.
Incredible. And then obviously the Vogue that, the live performance of Vogue that everybody remembers so well, the Marie Antoinette VMAs performance. Just spectacular and such a departure from, I guess, what everyone's image of Vogue up until that point had been visually. Tell me a little bit about creating that. And then also another urban legend that I'd heard was that that wasn't the only time that that was performed, that it was performed another time, maybe the day before or the day after as well. Is that true?
The day after, yeah. Well, Madonna called me again. Once the tours happen, the choreographer director doesn't go with them. They go out on their own. So I had, I started in Houston. I went to New York. They just started shooting the documentary, which wasn't part of anything at the beginning, but then they started shooting it. And so I had to go to Stockholm to kind of put the show back, tighten it up a little bit, because then we went to Paris and they shot some stuff in Paris. So when, and I created a version of Vogue for the tour. I mean, I used a lot of the movement that was already created, but, I had to style it and I had to stage it in a whole different way for the whole piece, because in the video, there's only about, less than a minute of real voguing, So I had to make the whole thing happen to take 4 minutes or 4.5 minutes up. So I had done, I'd worked on it a little bit at the beginning. I worked on it for the Blond Ambition tour. She called me up and she said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to do Vogue for the MTV Awards live. And I want you to do it." And I was thinking that Donna and Nikki and I would wear suits like I do at the opening of the show. And the guys, though, would be in skirts. And I said, "Why? You're always doing something that's so different. You're always breaking people's face with something new coming up. Let's do something new." And she said, "Well, what?" She wasn't like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was like, "Well, what do you think we should do, Vince?" And I would think about it and I would tell him and he goes, "Great, let's do it." With Madonna, it's like, "Well, what's your fucking idea?" And I said, "I don't know, Madonna. I have to go into a studio and I have to play. I have no idea what to do." So I almost choreographed and directed a tour for Diana Ross that didn't happen, but I had these big fans, and it was the disco era, kind of. It was her disco music, and I was going to do these fans and do all this fan stuff for the disco section of the Diana Ross show. And I just thought, I don't know why, instinct, whatever you want to call it, I grabbed the fans, a couple fans, and I took them down to the dance studio, just me, alone. And I started playing with them in terms of Vogue and all of that. And I thought, shit, this really could be like the French court of the 18th century, and the guys who are pretty much all gay anyway could be very foppish, and and it would all work, be effeminate, and it works. Madonna, who thrives on presenting a new visual every time we see her, could be something she'd never done before. And so I called her back and I said, I have a fucking great idea. What? Marie Antoinette. You're going to be Marie Antoinette, and the girls are going to be in your court, and your ladies in waiting, and the guys are going to be the guys in the court. And she goes, that sounds like a fucked up idea. And I said, well, why don't you get your butt down here to the studio and see what I'm doing? And if you like it, we'll do it. If you don't like it, you can hire somebody else, So she came down, just she and me, and I showed her what I was doing, and she loved it, of course. And so we rehearsed it. And the only part they were really nervous about was the three girls when they had to flip the fans and catch them, because it was live TV. So we worked on that intensely rehearsals. I mean, they would do it like 30 times, just like, to be sure that they could flip it and flip it and flip it. And I remember after Madonna got off stage, she goes, all I could think of up to those fans was those fans. But once I caught that fan, I was like, yay, we're moving forward, So anyway, it went great. And it was spectacular. I was directing a benefit for APLA, AIDS Project Los Angeles, at a little theater here. It was to get money, benefit for AIDS. And so I was asked if I would direct and stage the show for them, not really do any choreography, but just kind of direct it and stage it. And it was the next night. So after we after we rehearsed in the afternoon, before she did it live, I told her what I was doing. And, she was such an advocate, for AIDS education and AIDS information and getting all that out there, that when I told her what I was doing, and I said, why don't we do this tomorrow night? I said, but what I'd like to do is not tell anybody about it. I want to make it a complete secret. So I don't want anybody to know except the technical people, my producers, the people that I'm working with. And she was like, great, let's do it. So we got everything down there the next day, got the costumes, got the little door that she walks through, and the curtains went up the next night, and the music started. And people didn't know what to do, because half of the audience, or maybe a little bit more, had seen her the night before, and they couldn't believe that they were seeing it live in front of their faces. Yeah. For the ones who hadn't seen it, they had heard about it, and now they were going to see it. And it was absolutely amazing. It was amazing. And she was already a heroine in the gay world for everything that she had done. And it just boosted her even higher. So, and I was just so happy that she did it, and everybody had a great time. It was such a positive situation.
Yeah. I would kill to see footage of that second performance. I feel like the roof would have lifted off the place when people realized, holy fuck, that's Madonna doing.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh my God.
I can't even imagine. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. That's surprising as well. The best. We talked before about the Super Bowl and reinventing, or not even reinventing, inventing the aesthetic of the Super Bowl halftime show. Another thing that I give total credit to you and Madonna for is reinventing the touring aesthetic and the live show aesthetic. When you think of the Blond Ambition tour, no one had ever seen anything like that before in terms of mixing a rock concert with theatrical. It was like Broadway meets a pop concert, and really has become the blueprint of touring still to this day. Everybody incorporates the costume changes and the set pieces and the themes. And I mean, right down to, I remember her coming out with the microphone and everyone being like, this is just a whole new, so that she could dance. Yeah. It's amazing to think and think that was the first time we saw those things. That was the first time we saw a show with, because even Michael with the Bad Tour he had the dances and everything, but it wasn't as, there was no storyline.
No. We didn't use special effects. We had no projections. It was only about, we had projections on one piece, but that was it. It was predominantly with Michael, just about the lighting. And I mean, I did one thing, which was put him on a cherry picker and had him go over the heads of the audience. And in a kind of a moment that was for a thriller, that was like a magic trick. He disappeared and appeared on the stage. And, you know, but other than that, it was only about Michael just performing first by himself alone for the first time in history, you know. And so that's all we were concerned with Michael. But Madonna, you know, I mean, she was so open to my thoughts and my ideas. And I come from theater. I mean, I was an actor first and a stage director. And that's what I did before I began to dance. And so she was so excited when I brought these ideas to her. And through the rehearsal period, too, you know, things got crazier and crazier and crazier. I mean, well, she gave me what she had originally created for the song list. And for one thing, she had put Vogue in the middle of the show. And I said, Madonna, you have Vogue in the middle of the show. And she said, well, where do you think it should be? I said, it's got to be the last song of the show. It has to be. I mean, you can't not end this show, this Blond Ambition tour, without Vogue. It's going to be a monster. It had just started to come out. And so, you know, she said, all right, let's do it. So she was so open to that. The thing with the on the bed and Like a Virgin, for instance, that was totally out of this warped mind. But, you know, she had said to me, I said, well, what about Like a Virgin? What are you thinking? And she said, well, I was thinking I would do something kind of just heavy rock and roll. I'll play the guitar like Patti Smythe or something like that, you know. Well, I had a friend who passed away. Her name was Ofra Hazza. She was a Yemenite singer. And she was one of the first people to ever come out with kind of world music. She had created an album that had a dance feel, Yemenite songs, language, but sung, and it had a dance feel to it. And so I said to Madonna, I have an idea about, you know, this piece. And she said, well, what? And I said, did you ever hear of Ofra? No, I never did. I'm going to give you this. Take this music home and listen to it. It's very Middle Eastern, but I just want you to listen to it. So she came back and I said, so my idea is that you're on this big bed and the two guys, Vogue guys, are going to be like headpieces at the top of the bed. And I'm going to put tree limbs in their arms so that everything that moves will have this tree limb feel. And she was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so that's what I worked on for a day. Well, or half a day. The next day she came in with a bag and she said, look what I got, look what I got. And she opened it up and it was a cone bra from Gautier, those cone bras. And she said, I said, what are these? And she said, Gautier made them for me, but I never used them for anything. I said, fuck the tree limbs. We're doing cone bras. I want them on the guys too. So that's when I created the cone bra thing and put her on a bed. And that was the controversy of the tour because she was the one that took it to the masturbatory place. I hadn't planned on masturbation at the end of the piece, but she wanted to masturbate on that bed. And I said, well, hey, it's your tour, girl. Do what you want. And two things that I remember that happened in Toronto, we were almost closed down. They were almost closed down. The police came and filled the whole back of the auditorium. And they were going to stop the show if she did the masturbation sequence, which she did. And they didn't stop the show. But even more wonderful for me was the fact that the Pope at the time said that with the Blonde Ambition tour, Satan has been re-released into the world. And I thought, wow, I did that. So, you know, it was truly both of us working together. I mean, I cannot take full credit for that. It was an incredible collaboration. And she just, part of the reason I think that she was so open and giving to me was because she was in a time crunch. And I had literally 21 days to create from scratch 18 songs.
Wow. Totally
from scratch. And yeah, so I think she just never had time to contradict anything I said, you know. Only one time. We were doing the Like a Prayer section, and I said, okay, now I want you guys to lift her. And she said, I don't want to be lifted like some girl. And I said, no, not like a girl, Madonna, like a queen. And she said, lift me, guys. That's all it took. A little psychology, little psychology.
Yeah. And I guess that's such a big part of being able to work successfully with artists of that stature, with a Michael or Madonna. Part of it is obviously having the vision to create these pieces of work, but I'm sure a big part of it is being able to massage a performance out of someone, or create the safe space for them to be able to let loose, or to give that trust to you. How much of that do you think you learnt as you got to know the artist, of like how to guide them through the process? Is that just a part of your sensitivity or your character, that you've always just had that ability, or do you think that that's something that you, I guess, learnt along the way?
Well, I think that I think it's both. I think it's part of my personality. I'm kind of a genuinely nice person, and don't have a massive destructive ego. And also, I'm honest. I'm honest. Like I pointed out the story with Express Yourself, because that's just who I am. But I always say, look, this is my opinion. You've hired me, and I'm just giving you my opinion. Ultimately, it's your choice. This is your career, your life, and whatever you think, that's what you should do. But I'm just giving you what I'm seeing from the outside. But I had already been a director, so I had already dealt with actors, and and when you deal with actors, they're so sensitive that you have to know how to tactfully treat them in a way that you don't bruise their egos, and you get what you need from them, And so I think I carried that information into the workplace with not only Michael and Madonna, but with everybody I worked with. Because everybody is so specifically different, so different.
Yeah.
Not only in the way they work, but in their personalities and their characters, and in the way they express themselves, So, I think that you have to be sensitive. You have to be sensitive, and you have to listen as well to what they want or what you feel they need, and hopefully you can fulfill that for them.
Incredible. With Blonde Ambition, was that the intention going in to change the game? I mean, you must have been aware that what you were doing was so different to what had been done before.
Yeah, I mean, we were aware of it, but Joel, I'm telling you, it was like a fucking rat race. I mean, it was, like I said, I had 21 days before we had a week and a half, I think, only of tech over at the Disney lot before we went on tour, before we went to Japan. So there wasn't a lot of time to think about things, I mean, I would come home at night, and I would decide, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do Keep It Together. And I would make a loop of Keep It Together, and I would put it on a cassette, and I would put the headphones on, and I would fall asleep with the headphones on and that song going in my head. And I would wake up the next morning, and I don't know how to explain it except to honestly say the whole piece was right there in front of my eyes. I went down to the street. The studio is just right down the street. I went down there, worked with my assistant. I said, okay, I got to get this out right now. And threw everything out. And okay, let's make it happen. And so then the dancers would come in, and I would put it on the dancers to see how it worked. And then Madonna would come in after that, because she was already doing vocal rehearsals and weight training. And she would come in, and then she would learn it. And then that would be one day, and we would learn that piece. Come in the next day, I would do the same thing with another piece, put it in the headphones, come in the next day, start from the beginning. First thing we would do is review what we had done yesterday, and then learn a whole new piece. So we never really had time to think about what we're doing other than to be excited. And truly, I don't know if I could have created it if it hadn't been for that specific company. They were all at the top of their games. The dancers were phenomenal. Nikki and Donna not only sang, but could move beautifully. And Madonna was game for anything I gave her to do, and you have to be. But I will say one other thing. I think it also had to do, I think we were also able to make those changes because Michael and Madonna listened to me. And when you're early on in your career and you're hungry, you listen. And they were both hungry and they listened. The game changed, After a while, they stopped listening because people start believing the hype, and they start thinking that this is all coming from them. All the ideas are coming from them. And they get caught up in all of the propaganda and whatever else it might be. And I understand as time goes on, they didn't listen as well to other people. But I was fortunate to get them when they were young, younger at the beginning and hungry and open and ready to change the world.
Yeah.
And I was right there along with them. I'll just say one more thing. That was the only thing they ever said to me. We want you to do something the world's never seen before. Well, come on, as an artist, to be paid well and to be given that dictum, all we want is for you to create something the world has never seen. I mean, it's not like they're saying, we want you to do something that's like this. Or can you do something that's similar to what they... No, it was never that. It was always, how creative can you be? How can we change the world? Not so much in format like the tours or things or Super Bowl, but just in our imagination of whatever it was we were going to present. And it just so happened to be that both of those situations became game changers and changed the landscape. So, and I was happy to be part of both of them. So,
absolutely, incredible.
That's history, man.
Oh, the best. You mentioned about the company of the Blond Ambition tour, that iconic group of dancers and Nikki and Donna, and then featured so heavily and became household names of their own through Truth or Dare. What were your thoughts on the film?
Well, the one thing that I did know about Madonna that I picked up through the couple things I had already worked with her on and working on the Blond Ambition tour was I knew that she used people to her own purposes. And so I made it very clear that I didn't want to be at all shot for Truth or Dare. And I think you see me at one moment at the beginning of the film when we took the tour to Japan at the very beginning. I think I walk across the stage giving a note or something like that. And that's the only moment I have in Truth or Dare. I didn't want to be part of it. First of all, because it wasn't so much about the process of creating the tour. It was about the tour once it went out.
Yes.
And like I said, once the tour goes out, it's like, kicking the baby birds out of the nest. Okay, you guys go fly. It's your lives now. Go do it. So I didn't feel that it was appropriate really for me to appear as a person or a character, so to speak, in Truth or Dare because I wasn't part of what happened on the road. That wasn't my part. That wasn't part of me or my position. Yeah.
A huge part of the legacy of the film was its gay representation. And for a lot of people, especially young fans growing up, to see an artist of the stature of Madonna see two gay guys kissing each other and say, "Ooh, that's hot." Like, she didn't cringe or she didn't, not only was she giving it the platform, but she was sort of like endorsing this incredible group of gay dancers and very much letting it be known that this was them and they're living their authentic lives. Were you aware at the time of how groundbreaking she was to the gay community? I'm sure that would have been at the forefront.
Yeah. I mean, she was already at the forefront of making statements. I think she'd already done the commercial where she was wrapped in the flag, the PSA where she was wrapped in the flag about AIDS and AIDS awareness. And no, she was very, very much a part of that. And she was very much a part of the gay scene. In New York, it was all the gay it was the gay bars and all that she frequented where she started to get her notoriety. And these were her first fans and her support. And no, she has always, always, always been supportive of the gay community. Always. And just vocal about it. And whether it's just in general, or the AIDS situation as it was. I mean, it was not easy to be someone who was a spokesperson for the AIDS epidemic at that time. I mean, it was very, very tough. People don't remember. I mean, but, I was there, and, we were losing friends daily. I mean, daily. And so many of them came from the arts community, and so many of the guys that died were dancers, So she was so aware of it, and, I'm getting teary-eyed, but, I have to say there's a lot of things that people can say about her negatively, but I have to say, in her lifetime, she's done some incredible things for the gay community.
Absolutely. And at a time when it was risky. You were definitely putting your career on the line to take up.
Absolutely. 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 And she did put her career on the line. And thank God it all worked in support of her, And just made her stronger and bigger and better.
Yeah, we talk so much today.
Pardon me?
We talk so much today about artists getting cancelled for either, having a voice that is controversial or saying or doing the wrong thing. And it's incredible, the balls. Like you were right when you said bigger balls than anyone in this room, because she had no fear, seemingly had no fear to put her name on the line for something that she believed in.
Well, and she was on the one side, and then there was Elizabeth Taylor on the other side, So here you have these two female icons, one, the voice of the younger community and a great voice of the gay community, and Elizabeth Taylor, the queen of movie stars, being as vocal and as supportive as Madonna. Sorry. Yeah. I lost a lot of friends.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me feel I'm the same. I'm tearing up as well, thinking about that incredible, incredible time. Just wild to think.
Scary.
What the world
went through. So scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the way.
It was really tough. It was really tough. It was kind of like, I would imagine, what it would have been like in World War II or something, where, your next door neighbor died, or your cousin died, or your brother died, or your father died, or everybody was dying. All these men were dying,
Yeah.
And the same thing was happening during the 80s and the 90s, every time you turned around, every day, almost every day, you heard of someone that you knew, or who knew somebody that you knew, or a dear friend, It was a very, very difficult time. And we needed these heroines like Madonna and Elizabeth to stand up for us and to have a voice for us, for the unheard. And especially when it was all being heaped on us as if it was a gay disease, and that it took great women to work to save men.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Thanks for speaking on that. I know it's an emotional thing, and sorry to kind of, delve.
Oh, no. Listen, emotions are beautiful, and it's the memory is difficult, but the reality of it is that it did happen, and thank God we did have some people that were pushing us into the right direction, and pushing everybody into the right direction in terms of education and sensitivity, and caring and medical needs, and it changed. It really changed because of people like Madonna and Elizabeth. Really,
totally. I think of your worlds colliding with Michael and Madonna, and first of all with the Oscars performance with Madonna and performing the Dick Tracy number that you choreographed.
Sooner or later.
Yeah, and then her date that night, lo and behold, Michael Jackson. Again, one of those moments that, viral before viral, that's like people just couldn't believe that it was happening.
Well, it was so funny because, I would be working with Michael one week, and then the next week I'd be working with Madonna on something. Then I'd be working with Michael. Then I'd be working with Madonna. And each of them, they didn't know each other. And they would each ask me questions about the other one, And they didn't like each other at first. They were like, Michael would be like, what's she really like? I don't think she's a very nice person, is she? No, she's fun, Michael. She is. She's fun. She's crazy, you know. She's wild, but she's really fun. I don't know. I don't. I think she told Michael that in the closet she would do it with him if he did it in drag. And then I'd be with Madonna, and she would be like, "Well, what's he like?" And I would say, well, you know, he's crazy. He's a nice guy and everything. And then one time I had to go meet Madonna, and I got out from meeting her, and I came out to her, into the driveway to get into my car, and I see this little hand waving in this other car. And I look over, and I go over, and it's Michael. Now, I'm not sure if that's when they decided that they were going to go together or something, but he told me that Madonna was his first French kiss.
Oh, wow.
That Madonna was his first
picture that creates in your mind. Wow.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Especially back then, you know. So anyway, it was glorious when they came to the academies together. And
yeah, I can't even imagine the conversation between the two of them, because they're just polar opposites with, you know, and I feel like Madonna has really been getting off on the fact that she could have really kind of, you know, pressed Michael's buttons and say things in response or a reaction.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he got embarrassed so easily. Yeah. He got embarrassed so easily over things. And she loved to embarrass people. So, I would have loved to have been in that limo. See what went down there that night, but you know, we'll never know. Yeah. Unless she puts it in her movie, maybe she'll include it in her film. Who knows? You know.
I hope so. Next time on 90s Gay, we discover Vincent's work in film,
and also the bird cage that I choreographed for Mike Nichols and Fosse, Michael Kidd, Madonna.
In the meantime, make sure to check out episode 1, where Vincent discusses creating Smooth Criminal for Michael Jackson.
I brought it up to Michael and I said, I have this crazy idea, man, that I want you to, you know, do this, you and the guys that you're with, to do this lean and then you come back up. And he goes, well, how do we do it?
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at 90s Gay. Like, subscribe, follow, you know the drill, and we'll see you next time.